Welcome to the recorders debate. I'm sorry about all the back and forth and up and down. If you are not one of the candidates, I ask that you not mute yourself, or you not unmute yourself. And then I will try and keep track of the candidates so that we can have this debate. Our order tonight is going to be Brian Vokes, and then Andrea Allen, then Paul Child, and then Doug Gifford. I am going to be rotating who starts. I'm going to give each of the candidates a minute and a half to introduce themselves. We're going to start with Brian. We'll then move to questions. They'll have 1 minute to answer each question, plus 30 seconds. If somebody mentions their name, they'll have 30 seconds to offer a rebuttal. And then at the end, we'll give them another minute and a half to give us their concluding remarks. I have a handful of questions that the delegates have submitted to the Facebook page before the debate, and those are the questions that I intend to ask. So yes, and the Facebook Live is running, so if you would rather watch it there, you can now do that. And I'm going to go ahead and try and monitor that chat as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So Brian, why don't you take your minute and a half, and then we'll just go from there.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your service as county delegates. My name is Brian Vokes, and I am running for recorder on a platform that can be summed up in three main ideas. So first is fiscal conservatism. Having worked for Utah County Commissioner Bill Lee for the past 5+ years in the county commission office, I can tell you that it is vitally important to have department heads who are fiscal conservatives. If elected, I will continually look for efficiencies and only ask for budget increases that will result in cost savings down the road. I'm going to do my part to help the county commissioners not raise taxes again. Secondly, I bring a fresh perspective to the office. It has been at least 50 years since the last time somebody from outside of the recorder's office was last elected recorder. And in my view, that's too long for a government office to go without ever bringing in an outside perspective. And then third, I bring qualified leadership to the office. I am an attorney in good standing with the Utah State Bar. And because of my work in the Utah County Commission, I have experience working with big budgets and running a large organization. So that's my platform in a nutshell. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brian. Next is Andrea Allen. Hang on, there we go. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Andrea Allen, and I'm running for the Utah County Recorder. I've worked for the County Recorder's Office for 27 years, and it's been my honor to serve the great citizens of Utah County as the Assistant Recorder for the last 6. I am running to take on a new role in leadership as the current Recorder, Jeff Smith, is retiring. The Recorder's duty is to you, the citizens, and that sense of duty to serve you in the best and most efficient way possible is what drove me to run for this office. It's a part of who I am. And I'm uniquely qualified to take on this position, and I'm highly invested in serving you in with the utmost integrity, quality, accuracy, and efficiency. The Recorder's Office indexes, records, and maintains county records for the public. It's a technical job where accuracy is essential. I know where we can work toward improvements to maintain our level of service. I will ensure that the Recorder's Office continues forward progress, serving the public efficiently and effectively through wise use of current technology, and while remaining dedicated to long-held high standards. The way I see it, the Recorder really serves the citizens in 2 ways. We must maintain accurate records, and we must ensure user-friendly access to those records.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. Next is Paul Child. Let me unmute you.
Hello. I am glad to be here with you, and I am grateful to you as delegates for tuning in and trying to find the best candidate for the job. I've been serving for a long time in different capacities, and I'm running for recorder because this is the best use. I've learned from CERT that you want to serve the most people with the best good. And so I've spent a lifetime, basically 30 years, working not just at the Utah County Recorder's Office, but through recorders' offices throughout the state, and even in Montana and Ravalli County. I think that the recorder's office is a technical position. It's not really an administrative position. I mean, there is part of that, but there's a lot that you need to have knowledge about. It's kind of like if you took your car, or you're driving along and you have noise in your car or something, and you take it up to the dealership and you drive into the driveway, you see somebody there with a nice suit and fancy talk. You're gonna stop in and leave your car with him, or do you think you'll drive it around to the service bay and trust the people that have used the tools to get the and have it? Sorry.
Yeah, your time's up. But thank
Okay.
you, Paul. Next is Doug Gifford. Get that.
Hi, I'm Doug Gifford. I grew up in Orem, and I'm a lifelong county resident, and I love it here. I started working in the recorder's office 15 years ago. I also have experience in land surveying and in business management. I'm running for recorder because I'm not satisfied with a government office that is unable to perform its essential function within the timeline mandated by state law. Currently, the recorder's office has a 2-month document backlog, and I'm concerned with how current management has increased the budget by 53% over the last 4 years in a failed attempt to solve the issue. We can do better. The people of Utah County deserve a recorder's office that is fiscally conservative and delivers up-to-date property information. Over the next few minutes, I'll share my insight into these problems and detail my plans to solve them. Thank you.
All right. I just want to make sure with the candidates, you can all see the clock, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm going to reset the clock to a minute. We're going to begin with Andrea Allen for our first question. And it is, and I'm also going to copy and paste it into the chat so that we don't lose track of it. So the question is, what experience best qualifies you to be county recorder? Do you have any experience in reading, drafting, and understanding deeds? Andrea, go ahead.
Yeah, what qualifies me is my 27 years experience working in the office. I started out as a mapping technician doing just that, reading and understanding deeds. I then moved on to a mapping supervisor and a liaison between the assessor, the recorder, and the treasurer. So I understand the basic function of the office. I understand the state code that we are required to follow. It has been what I live and breathe every day of my last 27 years working there, is how to properly abstract and plat and index documents that come in. I understand the different types of documents. I understand the different qualifications that need to be brought in when there are subdivisions or condominiums recorded. I've done all of that, and I've done it for 27 years.
Thank you, Andrea. Paul,
You bet.
you're next.
Yes, I believe that I'm qualified because for the last 30 years, I have been working for title companies. Well, not 30, the last 29. And then the last year I worked for the recorder's office. But I did all of those things for that period of 30 years. I've been interpreting documents, researching and finding them, and looking for solutions to people's problems. I feel like I'm qualified because I've also experienced other county recorders' offices too, as I've done that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next is Doug Gifford.
Isn't Brian next in the rotation, or I'll go?
We started with Brian on the last question. So
Oh, my bad.
Nope, it's all good. Let me start your time over.
I can do it in 40 seconds.
Go ahead.
So I have a vast array of experience related to drafting deeds and understanding deeds. My background is in drafting and in land surveying. I'm familiar with multiple formats, multiple CAD systems, and how to plot things. But also I've been there on the ground. I know through education and experience what qualifies for property boundaries. Not always is it what's on the deed. The descriptions and the boundaries on the deed often don't match the physical boundaries on the ground. That's why our county has ugly maps that people complain about, but those ugly maps show issues that affect your title. The experience that best qualifies me for the recorder, though, is my business experience and my success in managing a successful team.
Thank you, Doug. And just to clarify for anyone who is watching, we started with the ballot order, which meant that Brian would go first, and then we're going alphabetical from there, and we're rotating who begins. So Andrea began this round, and then we went with Paul, and then Doug, and then Brian, because it's alphabetical by last name. Brian, it is your time.
Right. A couple weeks ago, I spoke with a former Salt Lake County recorder, and he told me that the most important thing when it comes to this position is being able to manage budgets and manage people. And I think what really sets me apart is that I have experience in putting together large budgets and overseeing them, and also helping to manage the Utah County government, which has over 1,000 employees. I have daily interactions with department heads and division managers, as well as other employees all throughout the county. And I deal often with sensitive topics such as legal disputes and personnel issues. Those I work with at the county will tell you I'm professional, I'm reliable, and I'm very competent at what I do. And I am a licensed attorney, so yes, I do have some experience in reading and analyzing deeds and other conveyance documents. I'm trained in general at finding, analyzing, and applying the law. And those are incredibly important skills to have when it comes to carrying out the statutory duties required by state law of the recorder's office. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Our next question is, what is the top issue facing the recorder's office? Let me get this into the chat for the candidates. And then this time we are going to start with Paul. So go ahead, Paul.
I believe that the top issue right now is, we've been talking a little bit about the 2-month delay, but I think the bigger issue for me from an outside perspective of the title insurance companies is what we call the black hole. And that is the time period between the time a document is stamped and the time that it is available to search. Right now, we're doing a lot better and we're probably at 2 weeks, but there was a period of time where we were right around a month, and that gets to be a problem for title insurance underwriters. So it's critical that we solve that problem, I think, first, because that if we're running 2 weeks, we're still looking at 6,000 documents that nobody knows where they are, what happened, or anything like that. So that's what I believe is the biggest problem.
Thank you, Paul. Next is Doug.
I agree with Paul that the black hole is a big issue. It's part of the entirety of the process of the 2-month wait and 2-month backlog in handling property records. This black hole didn't exist a few years ago. It was within a few days, and it ballooned. And my approach to solving that, and it would be part of my approach to solving the 2-month delay, is to fix the fractured scheduling of the recording clerks up front. Currently, they have tasks every hour and a half, and that doesn't give them enough time to focus on the task at hand and get the necessary work done.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Next in the rotation is Brian.
I agree with Paul and Doug that is the biggest issue, is getting on top of this 2-month document processing delay, because they already hit on that. I'm going to hit on something else, which is that I just feel like the office could better utilize technology. For example, we only have one e-recording vendor in the county, whereas other counties are more market competitive by allowing multiple e-recording vendors. That's something that I would really like to see changed. I'd also like to look pretty seriously into implementing a title fraud notification program, much like other counties have done, in order to prevent title fraud from really ruining somebody's financial life. And lastly, I would just want to talk about accepting credit cards and debit cards and e-checks. Those are things I would like to see the recorder's office do, similarly to how most of the other customer service offices in the county offer. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Andrea.
Yeah, a backlog of work is an issue, and the 2-month backlog right now is probably a little inaccurate. The mappers are working documents that are in March, varying days of March. So it's not completely accurate that it's 2 months behind, but the backlog is an issue. And we are working to solve that. We've had a few people who have left, and we've not been able to hire to retain those positions. We are also working, as was mentioned, on the Insta payments. That is in the process currently. We're working on getting a contract with CSC, which is another service provider, and we are doing our best to keep things moving with the growth that has come into our county with the staff that we currently have.
Thank you, Andrea. The next question is, what is the biggest improvement you feel you could make in the recorder's office if elected? And we are going to begin with Doug Gifford on this one.
All right. I think the biggest improvement is engaging the employees. There's opportunities to be made that will increase the productivity of the office. I do not feel that we are understaffed. I think that we have the tools necessary to perform our essential function and excel at it. I was successful a few years ago in implementing and initiating a process of having targeted goals and clear deadlines to try and reach towards our 15-day stipulation under state law. And by starting with a couple months in advance, we were able to make measurable increase towards that goal by the end of the year. And I think that it's as close as we've ever become to reaching that goal. So by engaging the workforce, we can increase productivity and save money.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Next is Brian.
So something I would really like to work on if I am the next county recorder is setting the gold standard at the county for customer service. This is a customer service office, and so it's essential that our clientele be greeted always by a friendly staff member, and that we work diligently to solve and resolve any issues that pop up. It may just be because I'm the outsider candidate, but I've had quite a number of people reach out to me and express, share with me some issues that they've had with clerical errors that have been made, and then trying to get those fixed. I've also had people tell me that it's been confusing when they first entered the office what exactly they're supposed to do, because there's not always somebody there to greet them. Those are some things I would really like to work on as recorder.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Andrea.
So some of the improvements that I would like to see, I am invested in preserving our duty to the public. We need to make sure that we maintain our online services, which are available online and on the web or on your mobile devices. I want to make sure that those continue to be updated and available to the public at no cost. That is something that if you walked into our office, we would help you with that. We would not charge you to access that information. I also want to look at improving technology where it's fiscally responsible. There are always technologies and there's always room for improvement if they make sense and if they will actually improve the quality of work. And we've got a great customer service reputation. We do well with what we have.
Thank you, Andrea. Next is Paul.
I agree with everybody that our customer service is superior. Excellent. What I would focus on is the main problem that I see. And I think that the solution to that could be as simple as changing the focus from our data entry is everything we do at the recorder's office is focused on accuracy. And I believe in that, and that's great. And that's what I think is wonderful about Utah County. But for just one step, the beginning step of data entry, I think we could focus on just getting a few pieces of information out so that that black hole can disappear. That would be the names of the parties and either a brief legal description, or we could implement the tax ID number. I'd rather go with the brief legal description because it's more accurate, but as long as we get that down to within a day or two, that's where we should be.
All right, thank you, Paul. The next question, hang on. I'm sorry, I forgot to lock my door. The next question is, the county recording fee was recently raised. In your opinion, what is the best use of those funds? This question, we will start with Brian.
Yeah, so I am very much in favor of the fee increase that happened. This was a fee increase that was actually put in place by the state legislature, raising the recording fee from $10 to $40. I think it was good because I believe very strongly in user fees. In other words, those who are actually utilizing the services of the recorder's office should be the people who are paying for those services rather than having the taxpayers at large be taxed. Especially, you know, if you have bought your house 30 years ago and you have no intention of ever moving, and that's where you're going to live forever. Why should you pay, whereas somebody else is maybe, you know, constantly flipping properties? And so as for where the money should be utilized, I personally would like to see it go towards technology improvements, anything that will improve the automation and the functionality of the office and really just make things more efficient. That's what I would put that money towards.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Andrea.
Okay, I agree that the fees were increased by $40. The PRIA, Property Record Industry Association, asked for the state recorders to get together and come up with an amount that was amiable to all counties across the state. That fee enabled predictable recording fees for title companies, for mortgage companies. It helped with stopping documents being sent back for incorrect fees. It helped to have us be more efficient in our actual recordings that come through Simplifile. If I were to use that money, it would go toward technology as well, and team building. We were also able to fund ourselves and turn $1 million back into the budget last year to the general fund.
Thank you, Andrea. Next is Paul.
The $40 increase, I think, was great, because I don't think that the $10 was enough to get the job done. The $40 is going to increase our revenues. If we do the recordings that we did last year, they should be around $5.5 million. I think that the recorder's office right now is budgeted to earn or to use about $3 million. So there's probably $2.5–3 million that would be available to use for something. Right now, I think that the commissioners are excited about being able to use that money. I'm not sure if that's a legal use of that money or not, but they have a huge shortfall this year that they're trying to cover, and it's a possibility to help them this time.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next is Doug. Hang on. All right, go ahead.
Okay. The change in fee is a good thing. It updated a policy that hadn't been revisited since the 90s, and it simplified a complicated fee structure. As far as the funds go, I'd like to see them put back into the general fund for the county. The commissioners recently passed a tax rate increase on the citizens of the county, and the recorder's office asked for their largest budget and largest budget increase ever. With the increase of tax rates and increase of fees, I don't think asking for more money during that time is the Republican governance that we adhere to, that we aspire to. I'd like to see any excess funds be put back into the county budget to reduce the impact on taxpayers.
Thank you, Doug. The next question, we're going to start with Andrea, and it is, how do you see the recorder's relationship with the county commissioner or with the county commission? Oh, hang on.
Is pretty.
Start over. I'm sorry.
Okay. You ready? I think our relationship with the commission is a good relationship. We've had some commissioners who have been very involved and come into our office and greet our workers. And then we've had some who we maybe see passing in the hallway, but as we are in meetings together, as we collaborate together, I think we get along really well. I think they have a fair understanding of how our office operates. I think they understand that we are not part of the general fund, that our fees, we're one of the few offices that is funded by our fees. We're one of the few offices who bring fees in, and in turn then, you know, we do turn money over into the general fund for the commission to determine how they use that money. But I think we have a really good working relationship with most of the commissioners.
Thank you, Andrea. Next is Paul Child. Hold on, you're still muted. There you go.
I'm not as familiar with the relationship that the county recorder's office has with the county commissioners. But I've been watching the meetings in the last little while, and I don't see a whole lot of interaction on the county commission meetings. I do notice that Andrea and Jeff are always there at those meetings and taking part when needed. I would hope that we have a good relationship with them. I don't see the commissioners coming down as often in my cubicle. Nobody's come to visit me yet, so I don't really have any idea about the relationship between the two.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Next is Doug Gifford. I think we're fighting over the mute button.
Oh, sorry. Am I supposed to leave it alone?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, I think that there's a good relationship between the county commission and the recorders. I think it's a good amount of checks and balances. I appreciate that the county commission respects that the recorder's office is an elected position and we have an elected official there, and they respect their decision making on how to best run their office. I know that there is a amount of back and forth that goes when it comes to requests, and I think that that's a good exchange of ideas. After watching the commission debate, I'm encouraged by the number of candidates that, when asked about the recorder's office, knew about the non-compliance to our standards and advocated for accountability and for performance standards and metrics. I plan to introduce accountability on our website so that the people of Utah County can know where our progress is.
Thank you, Doug. Next is Brian.
Well, certainly so as the candidate who works in the commission office, I can tell you, to be perfectly frank, the relationship between the recorder's office and the commission office hasn't always been the strongest. There's certainly other offices that we have much, much stronger good relations with, but it is a working relationship that works. And certainly when I'm in there as recorder, it's going to be a top priority of mine to have a very good working relationship with all three commissioners, regardless of who they are. Of course, in my current position, I have to work with all three commissioners, and I do. And I think it's very important that we always maintain professionalism in our interactions with the commission office, of course, with the other offices that the recorder's office works with, such as the assessor's office and the treasurer's office. I believe very strongly in not having backbiting and just really working together on behalf of the people of Utah County. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. The next question is, how will you interact and communicate with the public? We'll begin with Paul Child on this question.
I believe that it's important that the recorder is at the office all the time. The public, they come in weird, not necessarily just 8 to 5. They come in at lunchtime. They try and squeeze in by 5. If they need to talk to the recorders, the recorder should be available to them. And I have always been that type of person that is available and working the job. I don't disappear. And I think that's also important, not just for the public, but it's also important for the employees as well. They have questions at times. They need authority answers. And I think it's important that the recorder is there for them too.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next is Doug Gifford.
Yeah, I think our office does a good job of interacting and communicating with the public. Currently, I think that there's opportunities to increase that interaction through enhancements in new technology. And I mean, right now we're doing a video debate. I'd like to see opportunities for the office to share the visual map as we discuss with a customer over the phone or online about their property issues. I think that, as I previously mentioned, I'd like to see accountability posted on the website so people and other offices and title companies will all know where we're at and know that we're conscious of what our standards are and what our targets are.
All right, thank you, Doug. Next is Brian Vokes.
Well, I really liked what Paul said about it's important for the recorder to be present. I believe very strongly in that, especially when it comes to the elected officials in the county. They should be there working in their offices, present, meeting with people. If people come in during business hours off the street, I want to be able to meet with them face to face and to hear their issue and try to find a resolution. You know, in my current position, I answer emails all the time. I'm on top of that. The phones, if there's ever a phone message, I always return it. I don't believe in ignoring people and just hoping that they go away. I believe very strongly that we need to have a presence as elected officials, and so that's how I'm going to be. I'll show up as well at the party central committee meetings so that delegates can interact with me at those as well. So thank you.
Paul, you were mentioned in that. Do you want 30 seconds? I didn't hear you.
Sorry, no.
Okay. Next is Andrea Allen.
I agree with what's been said, and I will have an open door to the public at all times. I currently answer all of the emails that come into our department. I am often forwarded emails from other departments. I have a great working relationship with the assessor, the treasurer. The taxation process is kind of a three-legged beast, if you could call it a beast. There are 3 legs to it, and oftentimes people come to our office with a question and then they need to be taken to the assessor or the treasurer, or they've started in one of those offices and they end up with us. And I'm often called to the counter to help with those questions and help guide and direct the people. I am a people person. I've been doing public relations for a long time. I enjoy it. Generally, we can work out the problems. It just takes some time and some education on both parts, the person coming in and on our part.
All right, thank you, Andrea. The next question is, and we will start with Brian on this one, is why are you a Republican? Let me get you unmuted there.
Well, I've been a lifelong Republican because I believe in conservative values. I believe in a limited government. I believe that the main function of government is to protect our rights as enshrined in the Bill of Rights. I am a strong proponent of having low taxes and having government really try to be efficient and, as much as possible, as is reasonably possible, do more with less. And that's not just how I will govern, but also how I live in my personal life. I have very good personal finances. I don't carry consumer debt. I've worked very hard to be able to save for the future, and that's how I think government should be as well, and that's why I'm a Republican.
Thank you, Brian. I just realized that I messed up the rotation. Doug Gifford should have gone first. Doug, I'm going to ask you, do you want to go next, or do you want to go first when we do our closing arguments?
I can go now. That's just fine.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead.
Okay. I like the Republican ideal of small government. I think that government offices should focus on their essential function and fulfill it well. People have asked me about why I put a standard at a 5-day turnaround for documents instead of the 15-day state minimum. I believe that Utah County is a place of excellence. It's a place where we strive for excellence. It's a place where we set that as our goal, and that's what I intend to deliver, is the Republican standard of excellence into our local government. And by keeping it efficient, by keeping the employees productive, and by keeping taxes or keeping the budget down, I'll be able to do it at a savings to the taxpayers.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Next is Andrea Allen.
I'm a Republican because I believe in protecting the rights of property owners. That is what the Recorder's Office does. That is what I believe in. I believe in doing that efficiently and effectively. And it's a critical part of everyday life. Home ownership is one of the biggest investments that people make. And by being fiscally responsible and keeping taxes as low as they can and being as efficient with our neighbors and our own money, you know, it just doesn't come on trees. We work hard for our money, and we need to be responsible in government and keep that as minimal as possible. But we also need to be able to provide the essential functions of keeping those property rights protected and available. It's part of what boosts the economy, and it's part of what we all enjoy as citizens of the United States.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. Next is Paul Child.
I'm a Republican, and I have been for my entire life. And I believe in the Republican values, especially the values of the in the Bill of Rights, religious freedom, gun rights, also freedom of speech. Those things are under attack right now. And I believe that the Republicans believe in liberties and not in large governments that control every aspect of our lives. That's what's important to me about the Republican Party, is that we do whatever we can to be physically responsible, and we try to run our offices efficiently, and that's what I'm about to.
All right. Thank you, Paul. We're going to go ahead and go to our closing arguments. I just realized I bumped the camera. It's pointing at the clock. You'll have a minute and a half, and go ahead and make any closing arguments. Before we do that, one thing that I do want to point out, first of all, there are people asking questions in the comments on this video. I don't know if that's going to be somewhere where you can actually come in and answer some of those questions, but that might be a good place for you to reach out to some of our delegates. And I just want to thank you for coming and, answering as thoroughly as you can in a minute. Our closing remarks will begin with Brian. So go ahead.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for putting in the time to research the recorder's race. I just want to point out, no one is entitled to becoming the next recorder. We all have to go out there and prove to you that we're the best candidate. And as the outsider in this race, I just want to emphasize again that I bring a new outlook and a fresh perspective to the issues facing the Recorder's Office. In 2018, you delegates selected outsiders to run the Clerk Auditor's Office, to run the Sheriff's Office, to run the Attorney's Office. And that's because you recognize that bringing in a fresh pair of eyes, especially after 50 years, is exactly what is needed in this race. And as an attorney in good standing with the Utah State Bar, I am trained to analyze problems and find solutions. It will be very useful to the office to have an in-house attorney. I am organized. I have tremendous attention to detail. I believe in keeping government limited to fulfilling only its most essential functions. And if I have the honor of winning the Republican nomination, I promise to run the Recorder's Office in a very fiscally conservative way and with honor and integrity and dignity as I protect your property rights. If you have any questions about my candidacy, please visit my website, brian4utah.com. That's Brian with an I, the number 4, utah.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Andrea Allen.
Hi, I just want you to remember that I am completely dedicated to serving the citizens of Utah County and to protecting your records as efficiently and accurately as we possibly can. My great-great-grandfather was the county surveyor. He was the assessor, and I've lived here my whole life. I've dedicated my life to working for the citizens of Utah County. My own children are raising their families here. I love the process of talking with people, helping them understand their property boundaries, their descriptions, their ownership, and I want that to maintain at the highest standard that we have possible through innovative efficiencies and new technologies. I don't believe that you need to be an outsider to have a fresh outlook. I'm always looking for ways to improve. I meet with other counties, with the recorders from other counties, with other people in the property record industry to get best practices. I want to maintain our office's morale. We've got great staff who do a very good job with what they're tasked to do. We're doing the best that we can, and there's always room for improvement. Andrea Allen for Recorder.
Thank you, Andrea. Next is Paul Child.
I don't believe that Brian is the only outsider. I've spent most of my career as an outsider, but a heavy user of the Recorder's Office. And I've done all kinds of work for all kinds of people. I've done everything from the governments themselves, including Utah County, to lawyers, title insurance companies, both the agencies themselves and the underwriters. I've worked with investors, all of the people that are outside of the government that use the Recorder's Office are the people that I've helped and solved their issues and solved their problems for 30 years now. Now I'm also inside of the Recorder's Office, and I've only been there for 1 year, but having that experience has given me a better idea of the kinds of processes that are in place to make sure that people like me who did the work for commercial purposes are getting the best that they can get out of the Recorder's Office. I think that the Recorder's Office is doing a phenomenal job, and we have great people. And I'm excited to be able to work with those people and listen to their ideas that they might improve the county. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you, Paul. Last is Doug Gifford.
Thank you, delegates, for putting in the time and effort to fully vet your candidates for public office. Your vote is important. The problems that face the recorder's office demand attention. Change is necessary. We need a leader who is not only experienced and not only offering innovation. We need a leader who can deliver results. My experience in the recorder's office, knowledge of industry standards and practices, and my skill in managing a successful business make me the candidate who will deliver on his promise of change. As your next recorder, I'll fulfill our essential duty in an efficient manner that will cost you less. I'll raise the performance standards and be accountable to the people of Utah County. But the first step is in your hands. I need you to vote for me, Doug Gifford, for Utah County Recorder. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doug. Just for clarity's sake on a couple of things, for our delegates, this video will remain available on the 2020 delegates page, so you should be able to view it later. And thank you again to all of the candidates for coming and participating in this debate. And hopefully this helps the delegates make an informed decision in our convention coming up this weekend.
I'd love a copy of the questions through chat if we're not able to get it through some other means.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the Facebook Live, and then any business like that we'll handle there.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to get that in before we cut off.
All right, the live stream is closed.
It does look like you can copy and paste the questions.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, I
check.
got them in an
Well,
email, so I'm sure that
I got
Skylar
the
can provide them.
regular group chat from Charles, but I don't see any.
No, Doug's talking about the public questions that were asked in Facebook.
Oh, those. Yeah, I don't know the
ones
best way
either
to get
asked in
those.
Facebook or the ones Charles mentioned that were being asked through the
Yeah,
chat.
they're-
I don't know if Charles is the only one who can see them.
No,
as the
I'll
host.
send it.
No.
Doug, I'll send you the questions. I have it in PDF.
Awesome.
And-
Thank you, Skylar.
Are you in the UCRP 2020 delegates group?
I don't believe so.
Try and get in that. UCRP 2020 delegates.
And that's in Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
UCRP 2020 delegates, and you'll see people had some questions.
Okay.
Hey, Charles, this is Stuart. Great job again. And candidates, great job. Thank you so much. I had a rough meeting that did not end when it was supposed to, and I apologize for joining late. But I thought y'all did very well. And I wanted to thank Charles for taking the time to do this again. He's a spectacular moderator.
Yeah,
Well,
thank
thanks.
you, Charles.
You did fantastic
Thank you.
getting
All right.
us all in there, Charles.
So,
I was a little let down, Charles, that we only got to see your mug now. I was, I know, I know that the timer worked well, but I used to like the face shots of Charles between questions.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out a way to do both.
it's a good palate cleanser.
Yeah. Yeah, this debate was hosted by Charles Wood and his quarantine beard.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Hey,
Stuart,
thank you, everybody. Great job.
Stuart,
Thank you.
Thank you for your service as the
Hey.
party chair.
Yeah, well, thanks, Skylar, too. It's been a heck of a couple days, and Skylar has been taking the laboring oar, and I appreciate all he's done. So we're getting
Yeah.
there, though.
Thank you,
You've been
Stack.
for all your
fantastic.
service.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they all got more than they bargained for as soon as everything went virtual.
I had
Absolutely.
you guys will appreciate this. I had a candidate, not one of you, asked me the other day. He was kind of upset if I was making it up as I went, and I said yes, I was. I ran it past Skylar before we did it, but pretty much we were making it up as we go. But that if he had a playbook of how to do this, I'd be more than happy to follow that playbook. And kind of ended the conversation right there. So.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of candidates. I've talked to a lot of state and county party officials, and this thing threw everybody for a major loop. And so all of a sudden, the playbook that they had, all the plans that they had just went out the window, and everybody just had to kind of scramble. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see how everybody handled it, especially the candidates. But everybody was in for way more than they bargained for, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks again, everybody, and have a good night. And let's hope everybody gets a votes email here in the next couple of days. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
luck-
gentlemen.
Good luck to all of you. Thank you.
thank you.
I'm going to end the meeting, so it'll close on all of you. Fair warning.